What's up, guys? Welcome back. Second matchup of the day here for the IESF Qualifier. We're going to see Numnum taking on Chris Bewley. Chris Bewley got into round 2 with a bye in the winner's bracket. Lucky guy. For those of you who for those of you who have never seen us before, never heard of us, I am Pixie at Pixie on the mic. That there is Avril at I'm Avril, and we are your casters for this qualifying event. And for those of you who don't know what the IESF is, it's the International Esports Federation. The winner of this is going to go on to the finals in Indonesia. So a lot of exciting stuff on the line for these guys, and a lot of good players have come on in with their best.
Well, they're going to have to certainly bring their best because, as you said, high stakes here, international level tournament. This is a qualifier for that. So we're already into round 2. As you've said, Chris Bewley got the bye. He's already in the second round. Numnum now coming in to face him in the second round. And
Numnum 3-0ing his way to get here as well. So has already had his mettle a little bit tested.
Well, you know, has he really been tested? Because a 3-0 is a pretty resounding victory. I mean, I do believe it was a very control-heavy matchup. They did take some time to finish that, but 3-0, it is very convincing. So, you know, Chris Bewley might have to really look at this match here.
Yeah, and Numnum just, you know, given the time he took for that as well, you know, certainly a player that takes his time, considers all his options, very controlled, very measured player. So we're going to be jumping on into this matchup, and we'll just take a look at what decks were banned away. But it looks like we're starting off with a Warrior versus Warrior mirror matchup, and judging by Chris Bewley's hand right now, this is looking to be a Cthulhu Warrior, and also I like that Fool's Bane inclusion. I mean, that basically says, yeah, this is a control warrior.
So Numnum's Paladin was banned out, and Chris Bewley's Shaman was banned out for this. So neither of them banning each other's warriors. So we did mention this previously, where warrior is technically, I mean, it's basically the it's the class, the hero, the deck that gets banned out the most often. And not the case here, though. It did not get banned out. These guys feeling like, okay, we don't need to ban this out. We're going to kick things off with more or less a mirror. I'm just going to quickly check.
Yeah. Well, see, what I feel like that is obviously Numnum.
They're both Cthulhu warriors, actually.
It's interesting. Obviously, Numnum feels comfortable with his warrior. You know, we saw him do well in the control matchup already. So I'm not surprised to see him basically willing to just play the control versus control, so I feel like that's kind of why he left the warrior on the table. And already Chris Bewley off to a fairly resounding start. He's got a really nice curve here, actually, and Numnum, unless he draws Fiery Warx, doesn't quite. Hey, what do you know?
So unless he draws exactly what he needed,
there you go.
But you know, even if he didn't have that, a slam this turn wouldn't have been absolutely awful. Could then play into the Acolyte the following turn. Nothing coming out from Chris Bewley to respond to that. Nothing in his hand that we can see that can perfectly respond to that. But Fire Warx, really good start. It's also going to prevent Chris Bewley from dropping the Acolyte for free. Now, both of these guys are running, I believe, only one Acolyte each. That is correct.
Yeah.
So, can't afford to be giving away Acolyte too easily. You need to be getting more or less max value to get the card draws. So, as long as the Fire Warx is there, you cannot ever risk really playing your Acolyte because you won't get the value off it. So.
Yeah, and actually both players have extremely similar deck lists. One of the key differences is there is only one Ravaging Ghoul for Chris Bewley, and he has put a Fool's Bane in, replacing that. So aside from that...
There's Crazed Worshipper in Chris Bewley's deck, and there's not one in Numnum's. Then on Numnum's deck there's a Fool's Bane weapon, and there's not one for Chris Bewley. You're actually going to throw out the Acolyte there. Bit of a blind throw. I mean, do you think it's a bit risky because there could be a Warx that he doesn't know what Chris has, and if Chris had a Warx, that would have been pretty bad.
And he's actually just maybe rushed his turn a little, had the option to tap and shield slam, but instead he's played the Acolyte out, and that's kind of just played it right into.
Do you really want to slam? Do you really want to slam into Acolyte either? Though that's another thing you have to consider.
Well, it will be the Warx, but this can kind of be followed up with a Ravaging Ghoul here or a Cthulhu's Chosen. So both good options. Ravaging Ghoul if you want to draw. I do like just the Cthulhu's Chosen puts a good body on the board, and without Warx being drawn here yet for Chris Bewley, he's kind of struggling to reclaim this.
I think Chris playing Chosen here is not bad either because you're basically either trading shields with Numnum's Chosen, or he's playing his Acolyte into it and getting nothing. So you're basically forcing something out. I mean, Numnum has a slam to respond anyway, but I feel like the best line of play here is probably to play the Chosen. And it's actually having the Acolyte out when your opponent can't cleanly remove it, stops him from playing stuff like Ravaging Ghoul. So where you would want to play Ravaging Ghoul right now to get rid of Divine Shield, you kind of don't want to either, because you don't want to give them a free card draw off the Acolyte.
One of the things I found quite interesting is in the very early turns, Chris Bewley opted to coin out his Crazed Worshipper, I believe. Yeah, Crazed Worshipper. He actually... Beckoner of Evil, that's the one I'm thinking of. The one. He actually coined that out, right? And he already had the Emperor Thorsan in hand when he did that. And the thing is, the control versus control matchup often comes down to value. And I would have really liked to see him coin out an Emperor Thorsan just to basically outvalue his opponent, because every single card you have is suddenly discounted. It becomes a lot easier to control the board for cheaper than what your opponent can. And him having not done that means that now he's going to be coming into these turn 5 and 6s against, a Justicar and a Sylvanas. Once that turn 6 rolls over, all he's going to have is a Thorsan, and it's going to be a lot slower by comparison. So, and this is a bit of an interesting slam. I'm not going to use it for the card draw here. Numnum sort of respecting the fatigue.
Numnum sacrificed both really good card draws, one off the slam and potential 2 more off the Acolyte, just to cleanly remove a Chosen. Now, whether that's going to be good or not, we'll find out, because Chris Bewley can just drop another Chosen now on this turn, and it's almost like when you commit 2 cards to the Cthulhu's Chosen like that, I don't think that's good value. I didn't really like that line of play. I kind of felt like, for me, I would have gone for the slam, get the card draw, then play your Chosen's Divine Shield into theirs, and get the free kill off that. Uses up the Divine Shield, sure, but it's a much more worthwhile trade, and you still have opportunity to get then the extra cards off the Acolyte, and it still stops Chris Bewley from just playing the Ravaging Ghoul for free.
Yeah.
I mean, stops him from just playing it for nothing, really.
I kind of would have liked to see Ravaging Ghoul out there just to ping out the Divine Shield and then tap up armor, because at that point the Ravaging Ghoul does contest the Cthulhu's Chosen, right? The other thing as well, I feel Numnum, I think he could have gone either way with last turn's play, right? I feel like he's basically just respecting the fact that this is control versus control, and it could well go to fatigue, so he doesn't want to draw too much. And I do think that's a smart line of play, but at the same point, like I said, this is often a value versus value matchup, and having that card advantage really helps with that. That being said, dropping Justicar here, he's going to be able to follow that up with a twin Emperor Veclor next turn, which is really huge for him. It's going to make it quite hard for Chris Bewley to kind of find his feet back in this.
This is going to be a turn where he probably wants to play Thorsan turn 6. It will be the line of play. It is slightly risky because the Chosen can slam into it, and Ravaging Ghoul being played out by Numnum would probably be the line of play I'm seeing here. Unless, no, he can Gorehowl. I think that might be better. I think he should Gorehowl.
I think you're right as well, especially having already developed that Justicar, and Gorehowl kind of keeps... Again, it's that value matchup, right? The Gorehowl is a ton of value applied on that turn 7, as opposed to just dropping out a Ravaging Ghoul and then, like, what do you really follow it up with? Or you could shield block, You don't really have any great turns. Even if you just develop a Sylvanas, it's not fantastic, because you do need to clear the Thorsan.
Like, Gorehowl, I think, is the best play here, but not only that, one thing I wanted to mention about the Cthulhu Warrior mirror matchup, as it were, is that the Cthulhu itself isn't going to be as much of a win condition as it would be had this been basically any other matchup, because Warriors are going to get so tanky that the Cthulhu's never going to really just one-shot you.
No.
And not only that, but you've got executes available, you've got really good removal for Cthulhu once it comes out. So Cthulhu can't be the win condition here. Well, it's not the only win condition, actually. It goes back to a lot of the classic Warrior versus Warrior matchups where the game is really a super long control matchup, and then you might drop a Cthulhu to try and do a swing. But both players have that ability. Both players will be able to swing like that.
Yeah, and the other thing to kind of note in that mirror matchup is you need to get value out of your Doomcaller, right? You need to actually play Cthulhu than Doomcaller than Cthulhu. I want to take a bit of attention over to this turn now, though, with Chris Bewley here, because he has been unable to play the Ancient Shield Bearer. And without that Justicar being developed, he is slowly going to start getting his health chip down. When Cthulhu isn't the win condition, you're dead right. Like, having a lower health total net makes you inherently the weaker of the two. So this is an okay turn, but because the Ancient Shield Bearer would have just straight died to Gorehowl, it wasn't really worth developing, and that's again kind of swung this in favor of Numnum here. He's going to be able to develop something on the board. Has a Disciple of Cthulhu down against him, but I mean, really, it's almost a nothing minion in this matchup. It's going to be able to just tank up and pass the turn.
Even if Numnum wanted to just play the Ravaging Ghoul there, it wouldn't have been absolutely awful. But I think on one hand, he does want to save it for the execute combo.
Absolutely.
Not that he even has an execute right now, but you know, that's basically that. And Chris Bewley's hand is just really unfortunate because he'd like to play, as you said, the Ancient Shield Bearer, but it just gets instantly killed by the Gorehowl. He has to bait the Gorehowl out somehow.
Yeah.
But Numnum is not going to just run his Gorehowl into the Cthulhu.
And Numnum
Into the
knows,
disciples, so
yeah,
I mean.
Numnum knows exactly what's going on here. He's also making sure to not develop that Twin Emperor Veclor as well until he's seen a couple more executes and or shield slams just taken out of the mix. So at this point, it's just kind of a war of attrition, and it's one that Numnum will win just because he's already been able to develop that Justicar. And actually here, Chris Bewley is going to go ahead and develop that Ancient Shield Bearer, knowing full well that it will die to that Gorehowl.
Yeah.
So he's obviously just going, look, I need to get rid of that. And the unfortunate thing is that leaves Gorehowl on 5. So the moment a Sylvanas, or actually doesn't have a Thorstein anymore, but the moment a Sylvanas comes down from him, it's going to get cleared up.
He's kind of needs to wait for a Crazed Worshipper here.
Yeah.
I think that's the play. And the Crazed Worshipper, once he's got these like sort of 6 HP, including Twin Emperor Veclor, he's got a lot of 6 HP threats basically that you got to get rid of the 6 attack on the Gorehowl. And unfortunately, you know, this might just be what it takes. You know, he has to throw away something. This really throws back to, as I said before, really old school Control Warrior matchups where someone has a Death Spite on the Death Rattle, on the cusp of the Death Rattle, and sometimes you just have to throw out that 5/5, the Shield Maiden, just to get rid of the weapon, because as long as the weapon sits there, you're not going to do anything. You're spending turns passing your turn. It's better to just do something instead of nothing.
This is a really nice turn, actually, even though it's, you know, slightly damage inefficient with the Gorehowl, but this buffs up the Cthulhu, develops the Taunt, and clears the Disciple of Cthulhu. I really, really like this turn here from Numnum. And I also, as much as he's not going to get the Execute proc, at this point he's going to have so much armor available, he's only ever going to need a Shield Slam.
Speaking of Execute proc, Chris Bewley's got that available. And the other thing that I think is a bit risky from Numnum is playing the Ghoul onto the Crazed Worshipper. Getting the damage on there opens up the Execute straight away, as you see now from Chris Bewley, going straight for that Execute. I feel like you want to make your opponent work for the Execute. You never want to really give them, you know, from my experience playing Control, well, even Warrior matchups, if you give away a free Execute by whirlwinding your own minions when you don't need to, I feel like it's never a really great thing. You want to make them work for it. You want to make them use something to get their Execute.
Make it be a Shield Slam Execute, or indeed their own Ravaging Ghoul and Execute.
Exactly.
And,
make them play something. Makes them work for it.
Yeah, I like the shield block here, just kind of putting a bit more health in his favor, and I mean, he can't really develop the Bran Bronzebeard, unfortunately, because funnily enough, that plus Cthulhu makes for a pretty nice combo.
I actually think playing Sylvanas is not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad at all here, because
actually opts not to, doesn't really want to. I think he's waiting to see Chris Bewley's Twin Emperor Veclor, and it's actually now in his hand. Again, I really like that from Numnum, though I do feel after that Ravaging Ghoul play, losing the Crazed Worshipper, he's having a little bit of trouble kind of reclaiming the water. This is going to be the Twin Emperor Veclor, and it's quite really. It should have. It's sort of, you know, all on the floor here. Like, this is very weak to a Brawl, to a Sylvanas, to quite a few things.
Exactly like I was just going to bring up. Like, you're approaching Brawl territory right now, where you've got 3 minions. As soon as you get about 4, that's like an instant Brawl. I think 3 is like, oh, do I Brawl? Do I not? But if there's 4, even 3, I think, you know, I think Numnum just wants to even go for the Brawl right now. Yeah, and I certainly don't blame him. Unfortunately, the Gorehowl is not going to be able to kill whatever remains. But I mean, yeah, here it's going to be the Disciple of Cthulhu. So, sorry, Ancient Shield Bearer. You know, jeez, too many Cthulhu cards. It's one of the Cthulhu ones, the Warrior one. And unfortunately, Numnum doesn't really have a follow-up play here, aside from maybe just throw out the Bran. I think he wants to avoid card drawing too much with those shield blocks. I mean, we saw him kind of undervaluing his cards earlier to avoid that card draw. You also just kind of want to, you know, make sure you get really good slams off. You don't want to be too reckless with the armor for when you actually need the armor and you don't have enough to shield slam. But there's going to be 1 shield slam gone already from Numnum. This is a really unfortunate turn, though, for Chris Bewley. He has very little to develop. He can't develop the War Axe because he loses way too much value on his other weapon. He also doesn't just want to play a Ravaging Ghoul because he needs that to proc and execute. So he's just going to have to kind of armor up. And again, as much as he's got a higher health total right now, he's played both Ancient Shield Bearers and he has not developed a Justicar. So he is going to lose the armor race. Hero Powered Pass is not really that awful.
It's not terrible.
In this matchup,
but compared to Numnum's Hero Power Pass, it is the worst play, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I mean, absolutely, but in this sort of mirror matchup where neither player wants to play anything, because as the control works, you have to react to your opponent. A lot of it's very reactionary. If your opponent does nothing, sometimes you also just do nothing as well. If you got nothing to play, then you just kind of do nothing. Even now, like
the endless nothing.
Numnum kind of wanted to play Disciple Cthulhu, but he also didn't. He just it's got the 2 damage battle cry. You kind of just want to use that on something. This is okay. This is what you actually do want to play.
These are the kind of cards you actually want at this point. He is still going to be able to tap as well, but like I said though, in the sort of...
And it's awkward to Gorehell. You don't want to use Gorehell into this either.
Certainly not with 5 attack. You know, that's too good against so many other cards still in this deck.
Especially when Sylvanas is...
Yeah, exactly. But...
Oh, he wants to bait that out so much because he wants to eventually play the Sylvanas. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong side. I mean, even Chris Bewley, I mean, eventually he's got Sylvanas as well. When he draws it, he can't just straight up play it.
Yeah. So this tap and tap race does eventually get won by Numnum, but for as long as this Disciple of Cthulhu is out, it does stay even. At least Chris Bewley is able to chip away 2 that each turn.
It's so unfortunate for Numnum. He's on 9 attack for his Cthulhu.
And something proactive has to come out of him here. I think, he's just going to tank up here.
Honestly, he should just shield block because he needs to cycle. He's clearly not getting what he wants right now. And he's not exactly in a position where his armor is at risk. And it's like, well, maybe I'll need that 5 armor later. He won't. He's at a lot of armor. He can just freely shield block here, cycle a card, get something that will push his Cthulhu over 10 attack, 10 or over attack, and then he can finally play his Shield Bearer, he can finally play his Twin Veclaw, but right now, it's just really unfortunate.
I want to talk about something really interesting that's just happened here. He's
on 10 cards as well, so he has to do something.
Funnily enough, this plays perfectly into Disciple of Cthulhu, because Chris Bewley opted to slam his own minion, which I don't disagree with because he does want to just cycle. He's got a lot of dead cards with the double brawl sitting in his hand, now double Fiery War Axe, right? He did just draw one of those, of course, but I don't disagree with him drawing, but he will now go into Fatigue first, and in this matchup, both players are absolutely going into Fatigue, right? So this will no doubt be a clear for the Disciple of Cthulhu as well, which bumps that Ancient Shield Bearer just over the edge now with Cthulhu getting that final buff. And this actually, I feel, kind of swings it back in favor of Numnum just barely, because he'll go into Fatigue second.
They're both 9
and he's
cards
about
left
to get massive armor gain from an Ancient Shield Bearer, and that'll tip him over the edge in the armor race. So his health total now... Actually, he's
still not gonna...
He's playing so patient. I do like this. He's just trying to draw as much out as possible.
The other really unfortunate thing is he's had a Cthulhu in his hand for a long time, but it's like so low. It's only 11-11. It's almost, like I said, Cthulhu doesn't even really win you the matchup here. It's sort of... It'll deal a lot of damage, but it doesn't even swing that hard unless someone else... Unless the other guy's really committed. But... We are getting towards a really, the part of the game now where you're under 10 cards left in your deck. Yeah. Where you have to start playing stuff.
Exactly.
You have to start doing stuff now, like...
I don't know how I feel about Chris Bewley playing out the Ravaging Ghoul as well.
He just plays the Veclaw. I'm not even joking. If he plays the Veclaw, it's fine because...
it draws out something. Even if it's double Shield Slam, right? Those are just off the table. He's just run out of Ravaging Ghoul. He will have nothing left really to proc and execute. But I just kind of want to...
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about the Ravaging Ghoul, right? Because first of all, that is one of your removal tools to set up and execute.
Wow.
Second of all, there was the weapon already. He is getting very little value out of this weapon. And in this matchup, you're not going to get much value out of a 3 attack for durability weapon, right? He's only been able to swing it once. And this is blocking his Gorehowl or either Fire and War Axe, right? So... I feel like right now this Fool's Bane is not doing anything good for Chris Bewley.
It's going to kill the Worshipper though.
It will, but the thing is, opting to not use it in one of the situations where you could have last turn, where it was the Disciple of Cthulhu out, is a really big value loss when you're using one of your execute proccers. So I'm not sure how I feel about that play. And again, I feel like there's just been a couple of little slips here and there that have kind of put Numnum a little bit ahead, even though this feels like quite a tight matchup.
Well, I mean, Numnum is still holding onto that Gorehowl, which has still got a decent amount of attack. I mean, he used it to kill that Ravaging Ghoul, and he's put himself on 4 attack with the Gorehowl. We said earlier that he kind of needs to keep the 5 attack to be able to kill a few of the other targets, namely Sylvanas is one of the big ones. But even against another, even against one of the 6 HP minions, like getting the 5 damage in there and then finishing off with a Ravaging Ghoul or something like that is still really good.
Absolutely. And actually, at long last, the weapon is finally done a bit of work for Chris Bewley. Now Numnum holding on to double Ancient Shield Bearer.
He should play one.
Yeah, now that
because it won't instantly die to full
Bane. It's down to just the 1 durability, so that lives unless something else gets used. That's actually quite a good turn. It's no doubt going to draw out a Shield Slam if it's removed at all. And unlike playing a Sylvanas, it can't be removed with Fool's Bane and Disciple of Cthulhu. And if he's been paying attention, he'll know that there is still one of those in Chris Bewley's
Actually,
deck.
Chris Bewley has a Gorehowl now, so that's not awful for him to... He's using... He finally uses a Shield Slam.
That's big because he's already one Execute down as well, and I believe he has no Ravaging Ghouls left. So
he has to keep something for the Cthulhu. That's it. If he can.
But he needs to kill Cthulhu twice. You've got to remember, because both of these decks are running Doomcaller. This is true. Interesting. That's true. Ooh, Disciple of Cthulhu to face again. That's not going to be available to activate and execute now. Again, I feel like Chris Bewley is starting to run himself short on removal. He is yet to see the second Ancient Shield Bearer, the Twin Emperor Becklor, the Cthulhu itself, and the Doomcaller, right? With all of those cards still on the table, using the Disciple of Cthulhu just to buff your own Cthulhu feels a bit lackluster. Again, I can't help but feel that
he's also kind of half just baiting out the Gorehowl as well. Gorehowl's right now getting to the point where it's really ineffective, and you might as well be using Fiery Vorax, which Numnum does now have in his hand. Here comes the Twin Emperor finally, and this is the kind of moment where I think this is good because you want to keep 2 minions on board that you can constantly go to face with, but you don't want to even add the 3rd minion now because you don't want to give a brawl opportunity here. So 2 good minions on board, I feel like it's really good.
Now this is interesting. Normally you wouldn't want to play Cthulhu here, right? But there isn't actually the removal in Numnum's hand right now. There's a good chance he can draw into it with his just regular turn draw and then Shield Slam. Cthulhu as well, going to clear the board, put some face damage. And he has the Doomcaller there. I kind of like this play just because Numnum doesn't have the removal tools in his hand right this minute. Though normally I would not like that play at all. This has kind of put Chris Bewley back into it, but the Slam is...
It still doesn't have...
He doesn't have the Execute, but he has the opportunity to draw into it now.
I was going to say play Cthulhu into Cthulhu, but his Cthulhu's a lot weaker right now, so that's not going to quite work out.
This is big for him, though. He's seen the Cthulhu. He can now develop his own Sylvanas in time for the second round of Cthulhu after the Doomcallers come out.
He has to decide how he wants to go for the card draw here. So he's going to go for the Shield Block first. Disciple, not what you're wanting.
I would have liked to see Slam. He's just going to go ahead and develop a Sylvanas. So he's just...
But the 18 damage from face here.
Yes.
18 face damage from Cthulhu is going to be pretty massive.
Yeah, and you can't really... you know it's going to get stolen next turn. So
also because you're going into fatigue. Also because you're going into fatigue now. That 18 face damage is a lot. Like, it's worth a lot.
There is still the second Ancient Shield Bearer sitting in Numnum's hand, so he will get a chunk of that armor back. And also with that Justicar having been developed, he can rebuild it. But you're right, it does just swing it a little bit into the favor of Chris Bewley. I like the developing of the Bran here as well. It's going to force out a removal tool if Numnum wants to ensure Cthulhu gets stolen, which he absolutely should.
Also, if Cthulhu gets stolen, I actually don't know how that interacts with the Doomcaller. As in, you can't get your Cthulhu back, can you?
No, you get your Cthulhu back after you've played it, but actually,
because it technically belongs to your opponent at that stage.
And
because it doesn't belong to you anymore. Even if you play Doomcall, I don't even know if you actually get it back.
I know that it is known, but I can't remember what it is. And Chris Bewley, I don't disagree with swinging face here. Again, just kind of respecting the fatigue.
He's got a ton of weapons. He's got to start swinging.
It's not a terrible idea because he got that extra removal value out of the Fool's Bane. But now this Disciple of Cthulhu quite good here.
So
it's going to be
Slam, Gorehowl, run the Sylvanas.
But again, you're kind of hesitant to cycle cards. I do prefer the Ravaging Ghoul just because you don't actually want to draw if you don't have to. Again, respecting the fatigue, he now has the lower armor total.
You're right. You're actually right about that. 3 cards left in his deck.
But he is, if the Doomcaller does go off, he is going to, again, lose that Execute prop for that second Cthulhu. And with his health total, or rather armor total, dwindling, he's not going to be able to just do it with a Shield Slam anymore. Unlike Chris Bewley. This is going to be a stolen Cthulhu though, and now Chris Bewley does have to address that with only 1 Execute and 1 Shield Slam sitting in his deck.
Still, Numnum has the Justicar bonus armor, so over the next few turns, he has an opportunity to get some of that armor back, but I think that 18 damage to the face does make a big difference, particularly now, as I'll say again, we're moving into fatigue. And, whoa! It actually buffs not only the Cthulhu in his deck, but the one on his board
so it now,
as well.
it now counts as your Cthulhu. That's actually really rough for Chris Bewley, and he can't play that Doomcaller until it's dead.
I'd like to see...
He has to brawl. He has to brawl and
he does.
And then
he's got 2 of them, so why not?
And if it is the Cthulhu that lives, he has to use the Shield Slam. That's going to be really hard for him to do. Okay. Luckily,
that was the best possible.
Yeah, now
outcome.
he can clear that. So the Cthulhu is gone. Numnum does have a second, but I don't think the Doomcaller will work for him.
He just plays the fireworks.
Yeah, just develop another one. Tap armor. And both now just holding their card cycle as close as they can. I kind of want to check what's left in each of these players' decks.
About two cards left now?
Yeah, it's 2 cards for Numnum, 3 cards for Chris Bewley. So it's actually back into Numnum. He's going to be the first to go.
Numnum's going to go for the greedy play. We play the bronze.
I like this a lot.
Play the brand first, not only to get the double armor, but if he stays alive and get the double Cthulhu,
yeah.
That would be pretty big.
And I do actually see this brand living, right? Unless a Shield Slam is used here, because honestly, you don't want to brawl when you know there's another Cthulhu still, and again, you don't want to Shield Slam when you know there's another Cthulhu. So you could use Gorehowl, but that doesn't feel very good. Like
I think now is when you play Sylvanas. I'm not even joking, but because you're at the
Sylvanas is an anti-Cthulhu card. He's actually going to leave the brand Bronzebeard up, and that's going to be a Cthulhu straight out.
So Sylvanas does prevent Cthulhu though. So
yeah, exactly. It would steal it after it takes enough damage, but he doesn't have enough mana left for it. He's just going to armor tap, and he's going to take. How big is that Cthulhu now?
I think it's
about 15.
So 30 straight damage to face.
That's really.
I think it's
really
time.
rough.
I think it's time to play. I think it's time.
Oh no, yeah, this is the right call. Shield. I mean, he still takes 15 damage to face.
See, if he just played the Sylvanas, I feel like that. Now he doesn't have that shield slam against Sylvanas.
Exactly.
He doesn't have it against Cthulhu.
But if it was just the Sylvanas without anything being cleared, then unfortunately the Sylvanas could have stolen something other than Cthulhu.
Does Chris Bewley now get
another Doom?
Does Numnum get Chris Bewley's Cthulhu?
Oh my god!
Yeah, he got it.
That is disgusting.
Yeah, that may be the win condition right there.
Yeah, the second Cthulhu. And Chris Bewley, he only has 1 execute left in his deck.
And it put himself back in the lead in terms of the card.
Yeah,
in terms of cards.
The fatigue.
Exactly.
And that means he can afford to use his second slam for removal, whereas these 2 shield blocks are kind of dead here in Chris Bewley's hand.
Yeah.
And also, he has no way of clearing just the Doomcaller. Like, that's a kind of a big threat in itself right now. And again, like I mentioned just a couple of points throughout the entire matchup. There are a few places where I felt Chris Bewley lost a bit of value, and it swung it a little bit each time in Numnum's favor. And now this is coming to a loggerhead, right? Numnum has had massive armor gain. He's going to get a double Cthulhu now with that great Sylvanas deal, and there is no such mirror play to come out of Chris Bewley here. Even with the Sylvanas on board now against the Cthulhu, it's not as great because there'll still be a second Cthulhu and there's still an execute in Numnum's hand. So Chris Bewley, it feels like it's all over but the crying, but we could see a swing here.
Play the golden Cthulhu here. I mean, so even now with the Sylvanas, it's too late. Doomcaller, yep, take my Doomcaller, steal it.
This is, yeah.
And then I will play...
I didn't even think about that, to be honest.
Sylvanas has no effect right now because Doomcaller, he just... So the turn before, like I said, when he should have played... In fact, he's even just going to use
he's going to go ahead and use... Because he's still got a shield slam. He can
Why?
afford
Actually,
to.
no, he doesn't need to.
Yeah,
he should just play... He should just play the Cthulhu, which would kill it anyway. You lose 4 damage to the face, so what? He's actually not even going to go for that.
Yeah. I mean, both are kind of valid.
He has 2 Cthulhus, and I don't know why he's holding back when he has 2 Cthulhus.
And
if you have 2 Cthulhus, you want to be able to play one, like, pretty much now. Yeah,
and now, I mean, Chris Bewley, he's going to have to just develop the Justicar. And actually, that could be, well...
Let's see if this works or not.
It's not going to pull the Cthulhu, because, of course, it is in the opponent's hand right now. It's not dead at all. So, both players now in fatigue. Numnum, bigger health total, 2 Cthulhus in hand. Like I said, all over but the crying and just a few little slips here and there. And we talked about this at the beginning, right? Numnum has taken a lot of decks that are control-oriented. He has played very slowly and patiently in his previous matchup. He knows control, and he knows it very well. And he's proven it here, right? He has now out-controlled his opponent, and his opponent needs to kind of reconsider how he himself is going to play his control decks in the rest of this matchup, because he will still need to win with this warrior.
And... if he had not had his Cthulhu stolen, he may have had a chance, but now, you know, you use your last execute on that. In fact, you remember him using his shield slam on a brand we said that could have been another Cthulhu killer, another Cthulhu remover.
Yeah, though at the same time he couldn't afford to let the brand live. It was a very hard turn, but at the same time Chris Bewley made a couple of misplays that caused that turn to kind of happen for him. And actually, yeah, Numnum, he's just going to take it nice and slow. He knows he's pretty much got it. He doesn't need to play the Cthulhu right this minute. Might as well bait out a little
68 total HP right now.
Yeah, that's it. Like I said, all over with the crying. Numnum just going to take it nice and slow.
Do they have to cry though? Is that a requirement? Like,
I mean, maybe not.
Can it be over before the crying?
Yeah, I do want to be able to leave here at some point, but yeah, this is going to be just a tap, but probably Justicar. No, he's not even going to develop the Justicar. Well, there's no reason not to, but again, Numnum knows he's won it. The second Cthulhu to come down here, plus the Fiery War Axe is, I believe, exact lethal. Actually, it's one over. No, it is exact lethal.
Well calculated, very well calculated. Although, you know, personally, I do feel like some of those plays could have been made somewhat earlier. But Numnum, very expertly piloted, I think.
Yeah, just really, really patient. And in a way, in that control versus control, it often comes down to who doesn't make those small mistakes. And it's not like Chris Bewley massively misplayed, right? He didn't do things wrong. Often in that control, or rather with that control deck, the plays he made would be the right plays. It's just in that control versus control, it's just a little bit different. Like I said, it's very, very value-oriented, and if you do not maximize the value of your removal, you start to slip behind. And like I said, came to a loggerhead right at the end here. He's going to be bringing that Control Warrior back to bear, though, against Numnum's Cthulhu Druid now. So still a bit of that Cthulhu up in the mix, and again, something quite slow and patient from Numnum. So again, sort of a control versus control. Not quite the mirror matchup this time. We'll have to see how Chris Bewley plays this one out to see if he can maybe put one on the board with this.
Yeah, well, it's a different matchup, but just to highlight a couple of other things with the Warrior matchup we just did, I think it is a very difficult, game to play. You know, it's very difficult to play that mirror matchup. There's a lot of small things that make or break the entire matchup. Small things that lead to really massive.
This is a rough start from Chris Bewley.
Now this is not a good start for Chris either. So.
Sorry to cut you off there, but double brawl, Falls Bane, Cthulhu, now a Justicar. He's got nothing to do for these first few turns, and that means Numnum's just going to be able to slowly build a board. Already got a Wild Growth for turn 2. He's going to follow that straight up with a
Meanwhile, Numnum's hand is very, very good.
Yeah, he's just got all the tools there. He's got the cycle and control between Wrath and Swipe. He's got the Nourish as well. He could coin Nourish next turn just to fill up his hand if he wanted. The Acolyte is good. It does help Chris Bewley a lot. And I don't know that this matchup will necessarily go to fatigue as deep as the Warrior versus Warrior control. So you don't have to worry as much about holding onto your card draw. So
most Warrior matchups against Druid is actually quite favourable, but I do think the Cthulhu Warrior in particular is not that great against Druid, just because you're missing the Whirlwinds, you're missing a lot of the big AoEs to clear a lot of the Druid minions. Actually, I'm talking mostly about Token Druid. This is Cthulhu Druid, so they might have more of an even matchup. So maybe in this particular matchup, they might be a little bit more even, but interesting, both of these. Numnum is really favouring these Cthulhu decks, I think. He's bringing 2 at least.
Yeah, and again, Chris Bewley not quite finding the draws. I mean, Warrior isn't exactly renowned for its early game anyway, but these are kind of rough, you know, not even drawing things like the Disciple of Cthulhu or the Cthulhu's Chosen, but he does have some stuff to start coming down.
Doesn't have Acolyte either. In fact, Acolyte is really great against Druid because they don't have that Fiery War Axe.
Well, they have a Wrath. Yeah, that's true. I mean, the last one did get Wrathed out, so I mean, he still has one more, and yeah, okay, he finally starting to get into it a little bit here with that. I feel like Fool's Bane is a bit better than going Bran into Acolyte of Evil, I think is what it's called. Yeah, Beckoner of Evil. There we go.
It's almost.
Words are really hard sometimes.
They're all in the same cult, really. Let's be honest.
Getting things. Sometimes, honestly, the names do just meld together.
Fool's Bane is not bad here, but I think you want to remove the Cthulhu's Chosen, but you will be taking 8 full damage to the face.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough call here. I feel like if he was going to play the Beckoner, I feel like he maybe should develop Brand beforehand.
Yeah, but it is greedy because you do lose your brand, and you don't want to just lose your brand. Like, what are you activating on your brand? But one Beckoner's Battle Cry? I don't think that's enough. I think you want to get the Shield Barrier. I think you want to get that sweet 20 armor off the Shield Barrier, or that extra Emperor off the 20 Emperors. In fact, a triple Emperor is like pretty amazing.
It's a good point.
That's what you really want out of the brand.
Yeah, I like the hero power play here out of Numnum to keep the Divine Shield on the Cthulhu's Chosen. Just kind of makes the decision making even harder for Chris Bewley. And now for Chris Bewley, I feel like he should probably just develop Force. You know, just drop this on this hand. It's still not an amazing hand, but it's better than Justicar.
Fool's Bane is still not bad, to be honest.
It's not terrible
because you do get some removal started. That, or I think Justicar is actually not bad either because it forces the Divine Shield out of the Chosen, or the Twilight dies, but most likely the Divine Shield goes. So either of those I quite like. I think the Thaurissan's okay, but is there anything you really need to discount right now?
Yeah, these aren't super important cards to discount.
I don't think these are rare.
It's sort of like, do you value the body? You know, do you value the body of Thaurissan over the body of Justicar? And I mean, on paper, yes, but at the same time, you're not necessarily playing either of those for the body. Like, it really sucks to play Emperor Thaurissan for the body, right? You're playing it for the battle cry most of the time. So, Chris Bewley just kind of...
I'm personally thinking of the Justicar here.
Yeah, and also that will help him with his armor gain. Because he has taken,
it's that or Fool's Bane for me.
I think actually if he develops the Justicar, he can start tapping up that armor a bit more quickly, and that means he can get the value out of his Fool's Bane.
Actually, that's true, because you get the armor first, then you can start using Fool's Bane and not feel the hurt
and in fact,
damage.
Even next turn he can do that, actually, essentially only take one Cthulhu's Chosen's worth to the face.
Yeah.
Nourish going to come out here. Big round of card draw for Numnum. He knows he can clear the Justicar, so he can just take his time with drawing cards here. This is exactly when you want to play Nourish, and Numnum now with a really solid looking hand. All the necessary removal tools.
He can also coin a Twilight if he wants. He's not going to do that though. He wants to just save it for now.
Take his time.
It's not bad. I mean,
well, you don't want to overcommit to Brawl.
That's true. You got to consider Brawl. You always have to consider Brawl, and especially when Chris Bewley has 2 Brawls, it's really like, oh. That's really interesting. Now I feel like is when Fool's Bane is going to be. You can clear everything on the board now with the Fool's Bane, and then get the 4 armor afterwards. Yeah, you're going to take 11 damage. You take 11 damage.
6 damage total.
No, you don't. You take 6.
Yeah, it's 6 total if you armor up as well.
Fool's
Bane, 3 attacks. So you do need to hit that Twilight Elder twice.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, you do. That's correct.
And I think you actually do need to hit it twice as well, because right now the Cthulhu is already big. It's only going to get bigger. Druid has the biggest Cthulhu buffers in the game, so you need to minimize how much it grows off these smaller cards like Twilight Elder, because it's going to get that +3/+3 later on in the game with the Dark Arakoas, of which there are, unsurprisingly, 2 in Numnum's deck.
I also feel like, you know, Druid has like one of the best just pure removals for something like Cthulhu, which is a Mulch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just completely unconditional.
There's no other minion in the game as good as a buffed up Cthulhu, so Mulch is always good value.
That you don't require a lot of armor for Shield Slam, you don't need to damage them first for an execute. You just straight throw the Mulch out.
Oh, Chris,
what is he doing though? He literally skipped. He literally AFK'd maybe?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened.
He's there, like he's highlighting over himself. I feel
he had some options, maybe just
I think he is
considering.
He's highlighting over some. Oh, I mean,
stage fright.
At a minimum, there he should have at least just armored and passed. At a base minimum. There's no reason ever. So I feel like he probably AFK'd there. Maybe he alt-tabbed for a bit too long.
Well, maybe he thought like Numnum was going to take a bit longer, and he's like, oh, I'm just going to make a sandwich.
I think he was just changing the song on his playlist, and then just like, that was my turn.
Yeah, he was trying to like find the right tune, and then like he didn't notice the rope because he was just listening to like a really sick noise track.
Is Eye of the Dragon? I was like, type of Eye of the Panther, Eye of the Tiger. Oh no, my turn's gone.
Oh no, yeah, he was just too excited for it. Gonna come down very aggressively here in that charge form. I like that because it's gonna force out a brawl if nothing else. And look, this is just Numnum putting on the pressure.
He's actually got a lot of pressure against a warrior who naturally, in this deck, should have a lot of armor.
He can just straight double swipe face next turn if he really wanted.
Numnum's even just gonna burn this one out.
Yeah.
Just checking. I want to check if Chris Bewley's here or not. I just want to see what Chris Bewley's doing. Are you home, Chris Bewley?
No.
Here comes the rope. It should go pretty quick. Yep.
He's got to choose.
It's moving.
Oh dear, Chris Bewley. I'll be honest. It's not a terrible thing to have. Well, no, it does. It does suck, but he wasn't ahead as it was.
No.
Like let's be completely frank.
He was still behind.
He was not ahead, and he didn't get the opportunity to kind of claim it back. But unfortunately, That is how this one is going to finish up. Numnum going to go 2-0 ahead in this one. And again, just he knows his control decks. He knows his control versus control matchup. I really like the way Numnum is playing right now. He is not making those little slip-ups here and there. So far that's worked in his favor. And I believe he has a paladin deck.
Chris Bewley also just had a really awful start. Don't take that away from it. It was just really difficult.
Really struggled with his card draw. Yeah, absolutely. So
his opening hand was something. It was something, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
quite
not
painful.
exactly what. Well, I mean, even last game as well. You know, they were quite even at a point, and you know he was still sitting there with 2 shield slams and 2 brawls and like 2 fiery war axe and just a whole load of dead cards, really, you know, things that were not bringing him any kind of value for a really long time. And Numnum knew it, you know, Numnum goes, he's probably got brawls in his hand by now, I'm just going to not overcommit to that. I'm not going to let him get any of that. And we didn't see a single brawl come out of him that game, so it was sort of a combination of Numnum playing well and Chris Bewley having
It was almost like Numnum didn't give any good brawl boards. I mean, that part of the way you play against Warriors is that you don't give away boards where it's like, this is an easy brawl.
Exactly.
And like I said, 3 minions and up is when brawl starts to become a thing.
And it's knowing that control versus control matchup. Like I said, that Numnum does so well, right? He knew to not overcommit to brawl. I mean, it sounds like a silly thing because you always know to do that against Warrior, right? But that combined with all the other knowledge he had of the matchup just totally steered him through that. Like he didn't even seem to break a sweat there. And then again with the Druid. So we're going to have to see if Chris Bewley is able to put one back on the board, because at some point he does need to still win with this control warrior.
Chris Bewley needs to come back though. I don't know where you went. Sorry, to do that he will need to come back.
Well, I think he has come back to his keyboard at least. That's a promising sign. That's a good start. And now he can come back in the game as well.
Well, also that he needs to also come back in the game. He's 2 down, which is difficult. But the good news is the good news is for him is that when you're behind in a tournament in Hearthstone, you do get the power in terms of you now choose which matchups you want to play. Obviously, you have to win all of those, but you get to choose essentially in what order you play them in, and you know there's a momentum thing as well. You know, once you start getting going, if you start coming up 2-0 to make even up 2-2. I mean, there's the whole momentum thing factor in, the morale as well. Like you're starting to feel good. So I feel like, you know, even if you're behind, it's not all over.
No,
you have to win.
Not.
You have to win every single match regardless to get through the match. So.
And the other thing as well, you know, what if your last deck is just no good against anything they've brought? You know, that is absolutely possible. Like tournament meta and deck selection is still a very big part. You know, especially in these best of fives with a bannable deck, right? And even players who are really good at laddering often don't always bring the right decks to tournaments. Now, like, I don't expect that that's the case here, but even the best players can make slip-ups in that, because it can be kind of hard to judge the tournament meta a lot of the time, especially at times like these, right? We've got new cards coming out with Karazhan. What is currently happening on ladder is often quite different to what's happening in tournaments. There's a lot more experimentation, which means you tech differently. Different decks are stronger, different decks are weaker. Like, I don't think we'll see a whole lot of Tempo Mage here, for example. But you're seeing
there's a few Tempo Mage decks. There's a few.
And they're all quite experimental. So, but you're seeing a ton of it on ladder. You're seeing a ton of different variants. So someone could be teching against Tempo Mage. So there is still the absolute chance that Numnum has just not brought the right deck to close this one out. But in any case, all these things to be revealed. All this and more. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.